Good afternoon. Welcome to another Made Live TV. Today we have a very special member of ours, CBE Plus from Made in Yorkshire, and they're going to talk to us today about what is Vulcan to the Sky, a project that is happening in Yorkshire in regards to a new innovation hub that is going to happen shortly. So I'm firstly just going to introduce Katie and Steve on here today. So Katie is the marketing executive at CBE Plus, and she's here today to talk from a CBE Plus perspective. But we also have Steve Liddell, who is from the Vulcan to the Sky Trust and is a trustee there. He now works for Aston Martin on the F1 on the aerodynamics, and as he's from Hatfield, Doncaster, he lived near the RAF Finningley, so was watching air shows as a child, so was watching the Vulcan take off there, so is very passionate about this. So Steve, why is this an important area to address, and why are you passionate about it?
Well, I suppose there are lots of reasons. So first of all, what we're trying to do, we have two main objectives. We want to look after our Vulcan XH558, which we know that many people around the country are passionate about, and certainly were when she was flying. And we don't see an end to that passion. People still really want to come and see her. And unfortunately, that hasn't really been possible over the past couple of years because she's been parked outside and largely inaccessible. We've done our best with that. So that's the big thing that as our charity we want to do. But the other aspects of our objectives are that we want to inspire the future. And while she was flying, we know that there were many people who came to air shows, many children who came to air shows who were really excited by her presence. And that's something that I can really relate to, because I enjoyed that when I was very young, in fact. And I lived near Finningley. I remember going to see her at the annual air show. But we know in this country, around the world in fact, there's a shortage of people who want to get involved in STEM careers and STEM activities. And you can tell people that it's something that they should be doing, that you can almost say, well, you should be interested in this, and it all sounds a bit worthy. What we've got is something we've got this vast, powerful machine that really impresses people, that people really like. We can put it in front of people, and we can have it as the centerpiece, if you like, of an exhibition where people will come and they'll understand what it means to be involved in an engineering career or a technology career.
Yeah, definitely.
And they'll understand what those opportunities are.
Yeah, definitely, and it's quite inspirational, really, because I think when Katie and I spoke last, we said that it literally encapsulates, what British manufacturing, what British engineering is all really about. So really exciting to have you guys on today to talk about this. So I'm going to let Katie and Steve crack on with their presentation so that they can talk to you guys more about what the Vulcan to the Sky project is and how you can help. So good luck, guys, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So just to kick it off, this project's actually between Vulcan, CBE Plus and Workwise. So you'll find out a bit more about how we're working together throughout this live stream.
Okay, so I'll explain a little bit about Vulcan to the Sky and what it is that we're trying to do, some of which I mentioned in my preamble. But ultimately, we formed about 20 years ago with the aim of getting XH558, the last viable flying Vulcan that had been the RAF's display aircraft until 1993, back into the air. And work started on it in about 2000, but it took until 2007 to actually get the aircraft back in the air. And it's the only time we think that what's called a complex aircraft has been restored to flight. So an ex-military aircraft that falls into one of the three categories, and this is the most difficult to satisfy because of how complicated it is and how safe it has to be when it's flying in civilian hands. And it's also probably one of the most expensive restorations that has ever taken place. So it was about £7 million that was spent to first flight, and much of that came from donations, either in kind, from industry or cash, or came from donations from the British public, which was absolutely fantastic. But it shows that there was enormous appetite to have her back in the air, and we were able to fly her until 2015. We'd estimated there would be somewhere between 5 and 10 years of flying life left in the airframe, and it was very much dependent on the support of the manufacturers. So Rolls-Royce, who designed and built the engines originally, and BAE Systems, who eventually is, if you like, the descendant of Avro, who built the aircraft originally. And by 2015, it was apparent that we'd basically reached the end of the road, unfortunately. And we've obviously, the aircraft has been grounded since then, but is in fully working order. And if you like, she's very close to airworthy, and always has been ever since then. So when she was initially grounded, we basically retained our home at Doncaster in Hangar 3, and we had a really successful visitor attraction there. And we did have thousands of people each month visiting. It was we can show that we had an impressive business model, if you like, that people were still interested in coming and learning about the aircraft, just being physically close to it. And we're also able to, because she is live, we're also able to get her out and exercise the engines. We do that roughly once a month, which is similar to what would have happened for a stored aircraft in the RAF, to make sure everything was live and all the systems were working. And so through the summer, through the warmer months of the year, we're still able to do that at Doncaster. It's a fairly limited number of people that unfortunately we can invite to see that. And what we are desperate to do is to restore, if you like, our capability to have access to the aircraft. And if we can do that, we can both allow people to come and see the aircraft, but we can make much more of what we have, and we can fulfill our remit, which is also to inspire the future. And we can see that you can use the example of the innovation that is a characteristic of the Vulcan and how it was developed back in the 1940s and 50s, and say this really applies to the challenges that people see today, particularly in aerospace engineering. So people are very keen to get on an aeroplane and fly to Alicante or New York or anywhere else. People are very keen to do that. Unfortunately, we can all see that there's a huge downside to that based on what we know now about environmental damage and climate change. But there are solutions, there is mitigation, and it all involves engineering and technology. And what we think there is a space for industry to come in and talk about what they are doing, and that ultimately that will be very important to ensure the survival of and the viability of airlines and the civil aerospace industry going forward.
So that brings us on to how we envision this actually happening.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so we've launched a campaign called Operation Safeguard, which I think was back in October last year. We kicked off, and we're really saying this is how we're going to do it. What we're going to do is create a new hangar on a site that's already been identified and earmarked by the airport at Doncaster, Sheffield, which we're really grateful for, and we continue to be grateful for their support. But this will not just be a shell. This will be a fitting environment where people can come and people can enjoy a coffee from the balcony while looking down on the Vulcan, or observe the movements out on the airport. But they can also come and learn about the story of the V-Force and the people that were involved in that, and the technology that had to be developed to create that capability. And they can learn, as I said, about in our new planned green technology hub, about what is going to happen next and how they could be involved in that. I think when I was at school, certainly I wasn't told much about engineering, and I feel lucky that I had a passion of my own. So I always wanted to go and do something like that. But I think it's important that we stick, really interesting things in front of people and say, look, you could be a part of this, and here's how. Those routes aren't necessarily obvious, and I think from a kind of engineering industry perspective, unless we are attracting people into it, there's a lot of competition for roles for young people in the future. Unless we're showing people that this is a really exciting area to come and work in, we will lose that capability. So we've got the Vulcan experience, which is showing the aircraft and showing how it was developed. If you think about it, the Vulcan was built to a specification that was issued less than 2 years after the end of the Second World War. So if you think about something like the Lancaster, an aircraft that you would recognize as being a bomber from that period, the Vulcan was asked to fly at an altitude of 10 miles at 600 miles an hour, which even now sounds incredible. But if you think about something else in 1947, it was designed by people who didn't have fridges in their houses and went to work on their bike or on a steam train. And then there's this machine that you can come and look at, and it still looks like it's from the future. It's amazing. And that had to be done because people then understood, it wasn't a theoretical thing that you needed to defend your country. 2 years earlier, they had been physically defending their country, and 5 years earlier, they thought someone was going to come across the channel and invade it. It was an absolute imperative to get technology to work and achieve this aim. And if you think about it, I think there are strong parallels between that and the way that we look at climate change now and how people will want to get involved. And we want to show them how. We want to show them that there are things you can do, and we want to give industry a real showcase. People will want to come through the door and look at our aircraft, and then they will see what there is that they can get involved in. So we think that's a very powerful combination. And the final thing in there is, I mentioned that they did fly 10 miles high and they did fly at 600 miles an hour, and it was a long time ago. Sometimes it went wrong, and quite often it went wrong, unfortunately. These were dangerous to fly military aircraft doing very dangerous things. When they weren't flying 10 miles high, they were flying at 200 feet and flying into mountains on sad occasions, because it was the limit of technology. So we really want to honour the work of the people who in the forces, particularly who were the crews, the ground crews, the air crews of the V-Force. Even when it went right, these were people sat at the end of runways, literally waiting to go on a one-way mission. So everything about this is quite extreme. We think there is much to honour, and we feel we again would very much like to be a part of that, and we will make sure that that is done in a fitting manner.
On here you can see obviously sketches of what we expect it to look like when it is actually built, and the different interactions it'll have in it, serving as an interactive place for you to go on a day out, or as a trip for young people. We have brought ground on the project, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. So we've done what's called the pre-commencement work, which I must admit I'm not involved in construction, so that was a new term to me. But it basically means that we've started effectively the foundation work for the hangar. So that was really exciting. It seems to have been a long time where we've been talking about what we wanted to do. So actually, to see a digger on site and something happening, next to the aircraft was like, yes.
Yeah. But moving on from that, so to build this building and get the Vulcan into the amazing building we've been talking about, it obviously has a cost. So what we needed to raise to do this was £4 million, and through grants and different other funding, we've got about 2.9 million in the pipeline, which is nearly 3/4 of the way. But we've come together, CBE Plus and Vulcan to the Sky, to think, how can we raise the rest of that money and get this project actually going, because it needs to happen for the community, for the aerospace industry. So we've come up with the idea that we need 558 businesses, which is quite relevant, to contribute £3,000 each to actually get this building built and finished. So for this £3,000, you will be part of the Executive Alliance, and you will be part of this great project, which is all about British history in the aerospace sector. But you'll also get some benefits. So you'll get networking opportunities if you or your business decided to be involved. So that'd include opening event, dinners, and potentially you could host your own networking opportunities there. It is a space to be used. We want it to be used. We want it to be used for different things. If you come to us with an idea about it, we could probably facilitate it. You get free discounted event and meeting space. So a lot of businesses don't actually have their own offices, or their offices are not on site, or they have an office somewhere in UK, but they target the whole UK. So it's a little hub that you could use for meetings in South Yorkshire. And if you remember, we'd obviously discount it and give you priority for them. your corporate social responsibility, this ticks that box massively for businesses. I know some businesses have that as something that they have to do because of the size, but it's just something that's really nice to do. Getting involved in charity work and getting kids engaged with STEM is so important to future engineering. That links in with next point, STEM interaction. Getting kids in to see this aircraft, in to see how it's made, pressing buttons that light different things up inside, inspiring them. Oh, this is how this works. This is it. Just brings it all to life for them. So we are actually running some projects at the moment, which I'll come on to in a minute, about how we can get secondary school and primary school kids into thinking about engineering, how we can problem solve, and based on a real life example of such a great aircraft. There's nothing really more inspiring for them. So community improvement. If you live in, this is going to be built at Doncaster Airport. So if you live in Doncaster or even South Yorkshire, it's a great place to go. It's a great thing to have in your local area. It improves the community. It improves things to do there. And it's a day out. We've all got families. We're all looking for stuff to do, especially now COVID's lifted a little bit. It'd be a nice day out and serve a little bit like a museum that you can go to. And it's also educational. And you'd obviously get your name on members well in the hangar, and a certificate that you can put on your wall in your business that shows that you're supporting this project. So as I just mentioned, we're already using the aircraft to inspire young people. And because that's not built, that's where we come in at CBE Plus. We volunteered and are working alongside Vulcan and Workwise throughout the whole project, but this is where we actually are facilitating stuff. So we're going to house the first education projects in our site at Chesterfield. So we will facilitate it, give the resources, the people, and the Workwise Foundation are going to actually run the scheme, which is where they shine. So they're going to run two projects. One will be with secondary schools, which is about the fuel tank, which is on our site along with the wingtips, and is it the Olympus engine?
That's right. Yes.
Which is also on site. So we're actually creating a shop floor area where different groups of young people can come in. It's going to have workbenches in it, so they can actually sit next to the fuel tank and use our modern facilities, our machining, our plating, different things that they're seeing around them, and talk to our apprentices and skilled machinists about how they can actually restore the things that they're sat in. So it's going to put them in a real engineering environment and get them talking to real people who work on stuff like this every day, to inspire them. And the winners, whoever come up with the best project idea about restoring both parts, first of all, they will be announced to get up to speed 2022, I should say, and whoever wins, we're actually going to at CBE Plus create what they've planned. Obviously we might have to change it a little bit to make it realistic, but we're actually going to create that, and then that will be based in the hangar, which is a great inspiration to kids. It shows that when you do work hard, stuff materializes and it pays off basically as well. So yeah, at Guts 2020, which is a big careers fair basically, where a lot of different people come, British Army, McLaren, big companies, all bring different engineering based exhibitions to show young people, to inspire them. The winning team on this project running up to that will get announced there, which is an incentive for them to come and get involved in some more stuff as well. And yeah, primary schools will have a similar project. I'm not sure if they'll be able to come into our facilities because obviously their age, but it's going to be a very inspirational project for them and get them really hands-on with the Vulcan and just engineering in general. Have you got anything to add, Steve?
Well, thank you for that. I think that's all. I think the stuff with CBE and work-wise, the work on the fuel tank and the wingtips is really relevant and really inspiring. So that fuel tank actually flew on board XH558 for most of the end of her RAF career, and obviously it will be back in the hangar with her as an exhibit. That's brilliant. And I know that the wingtip parts are, I think they're something like 17 feet long. They're enormous things that we haven't had to use on our aircraft because we haven't pranged it, luckily. While it's been moving around. So but again, they're big, beautiful things that you can see. They're obviously very well engineered. I guess one thing to think about is in the past when we were in Hangar 3 with the Vulcan, if you can imagine what a corporate event at night was like, with tables all under the Vulcan and having your dinner there and having your clients entertained there, that's something that's pretty inspiring, pretty good to get passionate about. People wanted to come when we were doing that kind of thing. So I think you're entirely right. This is a space that we envisage people will be able to use, and it will be used throughout the day. There are lots of opportunities to get involved with this, and so having privileged access to it through this scheme is I think will be sought after.
Yeah, it just reflects the Vulcan to the Skies tagline: honouring the past and inspiring the future. It does exactly that, what we're trying to do. It brings together all the history of the Vulcan, and it's turning it into ideas that might change the future.
Yeah, definitely. It's so inspiring to see that you guys are getting involved with things like this, because we are already aware that not enough people are getting into engineering and into manufacturing roles, and it's a really like you say, a materialized example of what Britain has achieved in itself, but also what they can achieve in the future. So it's really important. So thank you so much, guys, for coming on today. We haven't had any questions come through. However, I have a couple of questions for you. So hopefully by me asking you this, it'll get the answers for the guys watching. So the first question is, how can companies get involved in the scheme that you were talking about there, Katie?
So I've put some information on this last slide. I'm not sure if everyone can still see it. We call this the Executive Alliance, so the website's actually up there, but I'll put it in the comments on this video as well. Or you can email Ian Straw, who works for Vulcan, who's actually doing managing this project and working with different companies that are going to work with us. We've already got about, we've only just launched it very recently, but we've already got quite a few businesses on board. So we're just looking forward to getting more people actually on board with us. But if you'd like to talk to me, you can contact me. I'm happy to start the process off as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other question was just why is the hub in particular so important for the next generation and having the Vulcan in there?
Shall I take that one? So we think that in the future, people will be more and more worried about flying and its effect on the environment, and almost struggling to justify that to themselves. But at the same time, there is a demand to go to places, and we see travel as fundamentally a good thing. And it doesn't make sense to not include air travel in that. If you want to go any appreciable distance, obviously it has to be by air. From a time perspective, and from a cost perspective. So there are really interesting solutions out there, and we know that in the UK over the past 60 years, shall we say, as a country we've done very well out of the civil aerospace industry, and be that aviation. So we're in our country, we have a very large hub airport at Heathrow and several others. So we're an international travel hub, so people come in and they do spend time here and they spend money here, which is very important. But also we know that we've played a huge role in Airbus, which is one of the two major manufacturers of civil aircraft in the world. And I think Airbus have just delivered their 10,000th aircraft, and every wing for an Airbus has been built in the UK, and it's been designed in the UK as well. So that if you think that's very, very high technology, it's very it requires a lot of highly skilled people to do that. these are all high-skilled jobs that people can get involved with as well, and
Yeah.
import manufacturing. So to an extent, as a country, we need to think very hard about how we're going to protect that if aviation is under threat because it itself is causing a threat to the planet.
Yeah, of course.
And the way to sort that out is through, if we are to continue to fly, is through technologies that damage less or don't damage at all. And that might be electric aircraft, it might be hydrogen aircraft, it might be different ways of operating aircraft so that they don't make contrails, for example. So a lot of that is about sensing and understanding what altitude you should fly, that kind of thing, which requires a huge amount of science behind it. So again, there are all these things for people to get involved in that can move the situation on, and they're very important to our country, I think.
Yeah, definitely, and I completely agree with everything you said there, Steve. And in addition to that, it's about changing the perception of engineering as well, isn't it? About engineering roles, because I think people still look at it as and as not a desirable career to go into, and projects such as these will be inspiring children to see what they can achieve, and it's really important that this is happening. So thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us about it. I do really appreciate it. So if anybody would like to get involved with the Vulcan to the Sky project, you can either contact Katie Andrews from CBE Plus, or we have Steve Liddell. So Steve is from the Vulcan to the Sky project itself. However, we have an email address here that Katie's popped there, so if you do want to get in touch, then you can contact Ian Straw. So thanks again both for coming on, and good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting this for us.
No problem at all. See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.